The diamond bracelet on my wrist felt like a handcuff. It was my wedding day, and the weight of its icy perfection anchored me to the planet. Outside the arched window of the Plaza Hotel suite, a soft May rain blurred Central Park's green expanse. Inside, silence pressed in, thick and suffocating. My reflection in the full-length mirror was a stranger, a vision in ivory silk and French lace, her eyes hollowed by a quiet dread. The only text on my phone was from the florist, confirming the peonies had arrived, blush pink, exactly as specified. The family group chat, ominously named the Vance Clan, hadn't pinged in 72 hours. The last message was mine, sent into the void. Just confirming the rehearsal dinner is at 7 p.m. at Carbone. Can't wait to see you all. My mother had never responded. A soft knock, then David slipped in. My fiancé looked heartbreakingly handsome in his morning suit, his dark hair still damp from the shower. But his smile, usually so easy and bright, was strained at the edges. He took one look at me, standing statue still in the middle of the room, and his face fell. "Lena," he said, his voice gentle. "The car's downstairs. It's time." "They're not coming," I said. The words weren't a question. They were a final, grim pronouncement, the last piece of a puzzle I'd been trying not to solve for months. David crossed the room and took my cold hands in his warm ones. "We don't know that. The traffic from JFK is a nightmare in this rain, or maybe their flight was delayed out of Dayton." I shook my head. The delicate crystals on my veil caught the grey light. "The flight landed on time. I checked the status an hour ago." I had been checking, obsessively, for 2 days. A part of me had known. The polite, clipped refusal of the invitation months ago was the first clue. My mother's voice, always so carefully modulated, had gone flat over the phone. "A divorce, Lena. It's not something we can celebrate. And David, his world is so different from ours. We think it's best if we don't attend. It would feel hypocritical." My father, the silent partner in all their marital decisions, only cleared his throat in the background. The sound was a verdict. "Then they are fools," David said, his voice fierce with a protective anger that warmed the coldest parts of me. "And they are missing out on the most spectacular woman I have ever known. Today is about us, Lena. You and me, our family, the one we're choosing, is already here, downstairs, waiting to love you down the aisle." I clung to his words, to his certainty, as we rode the elevator down. The wedding was a small, elegant affair in the terrace room. David's family filled the first 3 rows, his parents beaming and tearful, his 2 sisters and their families, a constellation of aunts, uncles and cousins who had welcomed me from day one with open arms and boisterous Italian dinners. My side of the aisle held 3 people: my college roommate Sarah, who had flown in from Seattle, my mentor Eleanor, a steel-spined former hotelier who had seen my potential a decade ago, and a kindly, distant great-aunt from Pennsylvania who liked any event with an open bar. The emptiness on my side was a vast, yawning chasm. As Pachelbel's canon began, and I walked toward David on the arm of his weeping, joyful father, I felt the ghost of my own father's absence, like an amputated limb. I saw the space where my mother's proud, stiff posture should have been. I listened for my sister Carrie's distinctive, giggling sniffle, and heard only the soft murmur of the other guests. I was a ship casting off from a shore that had never wanted it, sailing toward a new horizon. The relief of reaching David, of taking his hands and seeing nothing but pure, unwavering love in his eyes, was dizzying. The reception was a beautiful, champagne-fueled dream. I laughed, I danced, and I accepted toasts. But a part of me was observing it all from a great distance, through a pane of thick glass. Later, in the honeymoon suite, as David slept peacefully, I stood at the window looking at the glittering, rain-washed city. The hurt was a deep, resonant ache, a church bell tolling inside my ribs. But beneath the ache, something else was sparking. a hard, diamond-bright fury. They had chosen to erase this day, to erase my happiness. Fine, I would build something so luminous, so colossal, that their absence would be the defining shadow of their lives, not mine. The blueprint was already in my mind. For years, as a high-end hospitality consultant, I'd been the surgeon called to save dying luxury hotels. I saw the chronic illness, a soul-crushing sameness, a focus on marble and thread count over genuine human connection. Travelers were craving authenticity, a story, a sense of place. I dreamed of creating not just hotels, but portals, places that felt discovered, not booked. With the last of my grandmother's pragmatic bequest and a second mortgage on our Tribeca loft, a move that made David's finance brother friends visibly shudder, I bought a derelict 1930s Art Deco jewel on Collins Avenue in Miami Beach. It was a wreck. The terrazzo floors were cracked, the magnificent curved staircase sagged, and the scent of mildew and lost time was overwhelming. David, my rock, my believer, simply rolled up his sleeves. For 18 months, we lived on takeout and adrenaline. I haggled with preservation boards, sourced hand-painted azulejo tiles from a closing factory in Lisbon, and interviewed every potential staff member not for their resume, but for their curiosity about people. We called it the Nighthawk. The name came from the solitary birds I'd watched from my childhood bedroom window in Ohio, their silhouettes slicing through the twilight. It spoke to the lone traveler, the seeker, the person comfortable in their own company. It opened to a whisper, then a roar. A reclusive Pulitzer-winning novelist stayed for a month and wrote a chapter about the quality of the light in the lobby. A travel influencer's viral video of our signature Cafe Cubano service on the rooftop terrace sparked a booking frenzy. Within 2 years, the Nighthawk was the cult favorite, the place you couldn't get into unless you knew someone. More importantly, it was profitable. We plowed every cent into the next dream, a forgotten summer camp in the Blue Ridge Mountains of North Carolina. We transformed it into the Whispering Pines, a lodge where every room had a record player and a stack of vinyl curated to the view outside, and the central hearth was a restored stone fireplace from a 19th century grist mill. Then came the Salt House on a windswept, dramatic point in Maine. 5 minimalist cedar cabins where the only sounds were the crash of waves and the cry of gulls. Each property was a love letter to a specific place, a deep dive into its texture and soul. With each success, the silence from my hometown of Millbrook, Ohio, became a louder, more perplexing thing. My parents, steadfast pillars of their modest church and community, treated my career as a mildly embarrassing eccentricity, like a tattoo in a hidden place. My mother's annual birthday card would arrive, a generic floral design inscribed with "Love, Mom and Dad." No mention of the Condé Nast Traveller feature, the design award, the expanding empire. It was as if I'd joined a circus, and polite people simply didn't speak of it. David and I grew together into a formidable partnership. He handled the financial architecture with a steady, brilliant mind, freeing me to chase the creative lightning. We were happy. Yet, in quiet moments, the little girl who just wanted her dad to hang her drawing on the fridge would whisper from a dusty corner of my heart. 5 years after my solitary walk down the aisle, the Vance Hotel Group was a quiet titan. 12 properties, each a benchmark, and we were preparing to unveil our magnum opus, the Mariner's Rest in Newport, Rhode Island. It wasn't a hotel, it was a resurrection. A sprawling, shuttered Vanderbilt-era cottage, all gabled roofs and ocean view verandas had fallen into our hands. I spent 2 years and a king's ransom not just restoring it, but reimagining it. We hired historians, scent designers, and storytellers. Every room was named for a fictional guest from the 1890s, the adventurous botanist, the melancholic shipping heiress, the world-weary novelist, and furnished with their belongings. The library held first editions of Melville and Conrad. The bar served cocktails from forgotten recipe books. It was immersive, audacious, and utterly mine. The launch was the event of the season. We had journalists from the Financial Times, Vogue, and the New York Times. A legendary cinematographer, a friend from the Miami days, was documenting it all. The air on the morning of the press preview crackled with a potent mix of anticipation and my own tightly controlled terror. Then, at 8:03 a.m., it happened. The Wall Street Journal dropped its weekend edition. The headline, splashed across the front of the business and finance section, was a thunderclap. The $100 million visionary, how Lena Vance built a hotel empire on the ashes of a snubbed wedding. My publicist, Mia, shoved the digital version in front of me, her eyes wide. They led with the wedding, Lena. I'm so sorry. I tried to steer them toward the business angle, but the human interest. I read the first line. Lena Vance walked down the aisle of New York's Plaza Hotel a decade ago, with no family to witness it. Today, she presides over a boutique hotel chain valued at over $100 million. My breath hitched. It was all there. The stark omission of my family, my Ohio roots, the gamble on the Nighthawk, the philosophy of emotional hospitality. It was a brilliant, brutal, and breathtakingly public piece. My phone, which I had silenced for breakfast, began to vibrate on the linen tablecloth with the persistence of a trapped insect. It skittered, buzzed, lit up with a relentless parade of notifications. I gave my speech about the soul of place, my voice steady, my smile unwavering, while inside, a storm was breaking. They will see this, I thought. In Millbrook, at the kitchen table with the floral vinyl tablecloth, they will see this. The day was a sublime haze. I gave tours, gave interviews, and smiled until my cheeks ached. It was late afternoon before the last journalist was ushered into a waiting car. Exhausted, I escaped to the westernmost veranda of the Mariner's Rest. The setting sun was setting the Atlantic on fire, painting the sky in strokes of tangerine and lavender. I finally picked up my personal phone, hundreds of notifications, emails from old classmates, LinkedIn requests, Instagram DMs from strangers. And then, buried in the avalanche, a simple text notification. Dad, Monday, 4:17 p.m. The world narrowed to the glow of the screen. The roar of the ocean vanished. My finger trembled as I tapped the message. Lena, your mother showed me the article in the journal. Quite a story. We're impressed with what you've built. That's a lot of responsibility. Carrie's had a hard time of it since the split with Brian. She's been looking for a fresh start. We were thinking a marketing role at one of your hotels might be a good fit. She's family. It's what we do. Let us know. We'd like to come see your Newport place when things settle down for you. I read it. Then I read it again, dissecting each phrase like a poisonous flower. Quite a story. Dismissal of the decade of my life as a mere narrative. Impressed. The coldest, most clinical word for pride. A lot of responsibility. A judgment, not a celebration. She's family. It's what we do. The ultimate weapon, the moral cudgel, was wielded only now that my success could be of use. When things settle down for you, the assumption that my life was a chaotic, temporary fever dream, a white-hot fury, purer and more clarifying than any I had ever known, shot through me. It burned away the lingering hurt, the years of desperate hope. It left behind a crystalline, glacial certainty. My thumbs flew over the screen, no hesitation, no second draft. Let me be perfectly clear. You forfeited the right to call me family when you chose not to be my family. You were not there when I needed you. You have ignored every achievement, every struggle, every milestone of my life for 10 years. You have no idea who I am, what I've built, or what I value. My success is not a community asset for you to allocate. It is mine, earned alone. Do not contact me about a job for Carrie. Do not contact me about visiting. Do not contact me again. Any further communication will be considered harassment and handled by my legal team. I hit send. A violent, almost physical jolt went through me. I stared at the delivered status, then read. A minute passed, then 2. The screen remained dark. No typing bubbles, no plea, just silence. But this silence was different. It was a silence I had authored. It was mine. I became aware of someone nearby. David was leaning against the doorway, a glass of water in each hand. He had seen it all, the tension in my shoulders, the furious tapping, the final decisive stab of my thumb. He walked over, set the glasses down, and pried the phone from my frozen grip. He read the exchange. His face, usually so expressive, went carefully neutral, but a muscle ticked in his jaw. He didn't say, "Are you okay?" He didn't say, "Maybe you were too harsh." He looked at me, really looked at me, and saw the woman who had just drawn a boundary in titanium. "Good," he said, his voice low and firm. "It's done." And it was. The phantom limb was finally surgically removed. The ghost of their approval, which had haunted me for so long, evaporated in the salt air. I felt light, terrifyingly, brilliantly light. The aftermath was a quiet, internal revolution. My mother's single, guilt-soaked voicemail. "Lena, honey, we only ever wanted what was best. How could you be so cruel?" was deleted. My sister, to her credit, sent a separate email, awkward and brave. "I told Dad it was a terrible idea. I'm sorry he did that. I'm proud of you, for what it's worth from your little sis." "No strings," I wrote back, careful but open. "Thank you, Carrie. That means a lot. Let's talk soon, just us." A separate bridge, to be built slowly, on new ground. Months later, I was in Santa Fe, walking the sun-baked grounds of a potential new property, a former artists' commune with breathtaking views of the Sangre de Cristo Mountains. David was on a video call with our architects back in New York. I paused, watching a hawk circle on a thermal. The high desert air was thin and clear, scented with pinon and sage. I thought of my father's text, not with pain now, but with a strange, detached clarity. It had been the final, irrefutable piece of evidence. It proved that the love I had craved was never on offer, not for the girl I was, not for the woman I became. It was only ever conditional on my conformity to a script I had never been given. Their silence after my reply was the most honest conversation we'd had in 20 years. David ended his call and came to stand beside me, slipping his hand into mine. "What are you thinking?" he asked. "I'm thinking," I said, squeezing his hand, my gaze following the hawk's fearless arc, "that I spent so long trying to build a room for them in a house they never wanted to visit, and now I'm free to just build the house, our house, anywhere we want." He smiled, the sun etching crinkles around his eyes. "So, is this the next one?" I looked at the adobe buildings, the vast, open sky, and the feeling of potent stillness in the air. It was a different kind of beauty from the moody Atlantic or the lush Smokies, a new story waiting to be told. "Maybe," I said, a slow smile spreading across my own face. "It feels like it has a soul worth listening to." The past was a closed book, its ending written in my own hand. The future was a blank page, a pristine vista, a site yet to be broken ground on. And for the first time, with the sun warm on my skin and my husband's hand solid in mine, I felt no ghostly fingers trying to guide my pen. The story, from here on out, was mine alone to write. If this story of building your own foundation, brick by hard-won brick, resonated with you, then you're in the right place. This channel is for those who have learned that family isn't always a legacy you're given, but sometimes a kingdom you build. If you believe in rewriting your own narrative, in finding strength in solitude, and in creating beauty from the pieces you're left with, hit that subscribe button. We have so many more journeys to take, more vistas to discover. Remember, the most breathtaking views are often from the peaks you were forced to climb alone. Thanks for watching. Until next time, keep building.